Hello everyone and welcome back to Lake of Voices here on Touchy Elf. I'm Abigail and today we are going to continue our story. So last time, if you don't remember, Margaret fell into the lake and the Nixie dragged her down into oblivion. So without further ado, Margaret's anguished cries pierce the night. Then the screaming stops. My legs grow weak. It isn't right, but I push myself to keep going. Balaam curses between heavy breaths, calling those things every foul name in his large book. I try to focus on the pounding of my feet, but my brain won't cooperate. Instead, I imagine Margaret's terror as she's clawed to pieces by the Nixie. After everything, I didn't help her. We left her in the dark. As the night wears on, our strength rapidly fades. How much longer will this last? People have to rest sometime. Almost as if in response to my thought, the guide abruptly halts. I skid to a stop as well, sliding on the surface of the wood.
Why did we stop?
Balaam's voice is tired, but his guard is up. The guide doesn't answer, just stares at something slightly out of view. I step up to join him, following his gaze further down the path. There, curled in a little ball, illuminated by the lantern's light, cowers a person. His hands grip his head, and he rocks from side to side, mumbling incoherently.
It's a man.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I couldn't. I just couldn't. Please. I'm sorry.
I'm struck with an array of questions. What is going on? Why would he wander out onto these bridges on his own? Did he make it this far by himself? Were there others with him? If that's somehow the case, I can't blame him for the state of shock he's in. The man stops mumbling. He glances above him, seemingly only just now having the strength to lift his head. His expression, the deepest sadness, along with the clear markings of terror, are scrawled across his face. I stare at him in shock, not sure what to do.
Leave him.
No. I sent my eyes away from the man and instead to the guide's cold, implacable face.
No! We can't just leave him here. Without light, it's certain he'll die. He won't make it regardless.
The guy turns to look at us, his eyes seeming to glow from the The guy turns to look at us, his eyes seeming to glow from the closeness of his lantern. For the first time, I feel uncomfortable in his presence.
Whoever shelters him will only risk dragging themselves down with him. Leave him.
I glance at my partner. Balaam is outraged. I'm trying to think of some kind of compromise when the guide speaks again, his voice cutting.
If the man comes, then whoever is shielding him will have to remain at a distance from the rest of the group. Far enough that you can't see me, just my light. That is how you will travel across the bridges.
Why?
I didn't agree to lead this man, and I won't. If you ask me to, I will leave you all behind.
It's not like we're paying you. I mean, if we were paying you, I would throw a couple of extra gold at you to make you take him. Adrenaline surges through my veins and I tense up. It's a painful reminder that the guide isn't here to save our lives, but merely to show us the way. We're on our own. Balaam and I frantically share more looks between each other, trying to communicate without words. Neither of us have a desire to speak and be the first to make a choice. The man is standing now, though still hunched with his arms wrapped around him as if expecting a blow. He stares at the ground rather than at us. Because of this, I'm having trouble reading his face. What exactly happened to him?
Are you well, stranger? Do you know where you are and why you're here?
He glances up, not at me, but towards me, his eyes resting somewhere near my collarbone.
I'm fine. You all can go on your way. Forget you even saw me here.
That's absurd. You have no way to defend yourself. We can't leave you.
Yes, I'm sure in your eyes I might not seem like much, but that's not exactly a fair shake. Maybe in a perfect world, every man would be as large as you, but that's not how things always go. It doesn't mean I'm defenseless.
The man's response is Mandarin. The words themselves seem to be in good jest, but he's still barely looking at us, fidgeting with his hands. Bellum frowns, unimpressed.
It was a joke.
He smiles hesitantly, making eye contact with each of us for the first time.
What part of it was supposed to be the joke? Do you even realize what is happening in this moment?
The bridges are sinking?
Never mind. Forget that too. Point is, I'm alright.
You have found yourself out alone and unlit on Sinlos.
Exactly. Something must be wrong with you.
Oh no, sounds like you've been talking with my father.
He lets out a weak little laugh, coupled with an eyebrow raised, voice trembling. No one really knows what to make of this. The man gives a small wave and begins down the path we came. Bellum huffs, tossing his hands into the air.
That's not even the right way.
It is for me.
Oh? You must have come quite a ways if it was the other shore you started on.
The man's smile grows.
Good. That's not so bad.
There is no response to this remark, unsure of what could be said.
I still think he should come with us. A person needs a light, and the guide himself said he won't be able to manage on his own. Sticking with us is his best option.
Yeah, but the guide also said that he wouldn't take him. I look over the man's body, noting the scrawniness of his limbs, scrawny but not necessarily lacking in muscle. The bravado he was showing as he tried to leave us has faded yet again, and now he's standing quietly, looking at us, as if watching a play. Invested, but no true connection to the events.
It's easy for you to say such things, but whose light are you offering? It's not mine, and you are putting her in even more danger with your own presence already.
Bellum's hands turn into fists. He looks away but doesn't say anything. For a moment, no one does. I feel a cold sweat on my brow as what I feared comes to pass. He's stopping us from protecting another. Why must he get involved now? Why can't he just leave us to make our own decisions?
You... Don't worry about me. I'll be on my way now.
The man's voice is full of something I cannot place, and he starts to shuffle back down the way we came, arms still clenched around himself. I know the guide wants to act as though there is no option, however I could stay back with him. It'll put Bellum and myself at significantly more risk, but at least this man will stand a chance. Put a hand and stop him. I straighten my arm out like a rod, blocking his progress past me. He stops, perplexed.
I am not afraid to stay behind, as long as Bemele can remain up front with you in your light.
The guide doesn't say anything, doesn't even blink. Bellame smiles sadly at me.
One can always count on you, Kikka.
The man, meanwhile, stands with his mouth agape, truly and genuinely shocked.
Well, what will it be?
That is fine by me. I can stay on the fringes of your light. That way you won't have to worry about a repeat of what happened earlier.
The guide doesn't acknowledge him. He stares at the stranger. The man shakes under the attention.
No, really. I could just go on my own. It's fine.
I step closer to him, lending the support he seems to desperately need.
You do not need to go this alone. I will protect you.
The man stares at me. I return his gaze, willing him to see my certainty. There need be no more blood spilled tonight. Slowly, the fear melts off of his face, replaced with something like resignation. Then he drops his gaze to the floor.
Okay.
All right.
I grasp his shoulder and turn to the rest of the group.
You should get a head start, correct? You'll have to put some distance between us.
The guide seems to agree as he starts to walk away without another word. Bellamy smiles first at the stranger, then at me.
Take care back here, all right? We'll all be together again when we reach the halfway island. It won't be too much longer now. We'll have a nice little camp out, and you can properly introduce yourself to us. Maybe even tell a real joke or two.
The man emits a nervous little laugh and ducks his head. The prospect must not be enticing to him. With the stranger having pulled himself out of the conversation, Bemele looks seriously at me.
I'm sorry to put you in even more.
Stop.
Bellamy shakes his head, still smiling.
I don't begrudge you at all. In fact, I'm glad you did. All I want is for you to remember that goal. Each of us, together, on the island, and then on the other shore, safe. This isn't about what our job is, or where other people need us to be.
I nod in response. Bellamy opens his mouth and closes it. He swallows hard.
You two.
I'm surprised to hear his voice wavering slightly. He swallows again, then continues.
You two should look out for each other.
He takes a few steps back, as if to go, but his eyes don't leave mine. He hesitates for a moment, then he crosses back to me and puts a hand on my shoulder. He smiles at me, a smile full of pride and nervousness and fear. I smile back, doing my best to communicate my gratitude and my resolve. I can't tell whether he understands. He softly glides his hand down the width of my arm before moving away for good. The guide's figure disappears with only his lantern to lead the way. Bellamy is finally forced to leave us behind and catch up with him. I watch him disappear into the fog. An odd feeling in the pit of my stomach. I cannot recall the last time I had difficulty seeing someone leave.
You should go after them.
I start. I almost forgot the man was there, standing right next to me. Now he looks at me with desperate eyes.
You don't need to do this.
No, but you don't understand. I do.
What?
I'd rather know you returned to them safe, and that you all had a chance to make it back together. The way they acted, having to go on without you, no one would feel that way for me. I'm not worth it.
That's not...
I stop, unable to say the last word. Can I claim that he's wrong? This is the one thing he has seemed sure of, and I do not know him. Empty platitudes may be worse than nothing at all. He smirks at my mumbling reply. I'm caught off guard by the change. With only that, it seems he's in his element.
It's true.
He continues to grin, more so to himself than me.
You lot certainly made a scene, huh? That's nice. being loved and all.
He clarifies after I must have given him an undesired reaction to this statement. I am so disconnected with myself, I'm unsure if surprise appeared on my face or if it was a lack of emotion that put him off.
I don't know exactly what kind of love it is you share, but there has to be a bond in that group of yours. I mean, especially with the big one. You wouldn't look at anyone like that.
He laughs and then speaks quietly.
It doesn't matter. I could still try for the other shore. Go.
I will stay. My certainty shocks him. I can tell immediately. He has returned to his meeker self. The man starts to speak again, but I interrupt.
We should start walking. That should be enough of a head start for them.
He hesitates a moment, but ultimately begins walking at my side. I'm relieved. I can never quite be sure what will come from this one. He moves in silence. The man doesn't seem to want to speak anymore, but he keeps glancing at me as if expecting something. Somehow, his odd behavior is comforting rather than disconcerting. Disconcerting. Perhaps it's because he's more nervous about all this than I am. It's putting me at ease, making me feel more capable. I shouldn't allow myself to get comfortable, however. We're in a more dangerous position than ever. The whispering from the lake, so faint after Balaam's close call, now surges forth. It grows nigh unbearable. The creatures teeming below the surface. I dare not speculate on what has them so excited.
Have you a name?
Excuse me. The man chuckles dryly.
Barely.
I don't really know what I am to take from that.
This time his laugh is more of a bark, quickly out and swallowed back up. Then he frowns.
Lou. Only 2 letters. So barely.
I see.
Is it your birth name or was it given to you by someone?
What are you doing out here without the guide?
Perhaps the question isn't appropriate to ask. After all, only the darkest of circumstances spurs someone to cross Sinlos. But this situation is very dangerous. I might even go so far as to say it's suspicious. I know that's not fair, but I can't help it. Years spent anticipating danger have made me weary.
That's a good question. I'm not sure I know myself.
Does he remember?
What does that mean? Is that some sort of joke too? Or do you genuinely not remember how you arrived where you are?
No, it wasn't a joke. Or, well, there is a point to it all.
Then his voice, already by nature light and airy, drops to a whisper.
But I don't know why I even tried. You'd think that I'd be able to call a spade already, right?
He looks up, noticing my gaze still leveled at him, then he shrugs.
I'd rather not talk about it.
As what has become the norm, I don't fully understand what he means. But I can at least guess that he's not very happy with himself at present. And, like it or not, he won't be sharing his real reasons with me.
What about you? What brings you out on this little adventure?
People. On the other side. People who need my help.
You have someone waiting on you? Then why are you risking yourself on me instead of worrying about what's going to happen to them?
I feel my brows furrow from my speck of alarm. Is that really what he took from this? I survey his face with a flicker in my eyes, but there is no mischievous gleam to his look now. He's serious. We hold eye contact for a moment until he yet again stares down at the ground.
Sorry. I didn't mean to be disrespectful. It just fell out somehow. I wasn't thinking.
Yorick Portman as well. I'm pretty sure that bell, I don't know if you can hear it, but there's a little bell that plays every time I say some, not every time, but sometimes when I say interactions. I think that's the notification to me as the player that I said something that might get me a romantic ending with one of the characters, because that is like the 4th time I've heard it. Okay, his stare shoots back up at me, eyes wide. Get back where I can see you, mouse.
Of course I'm going to be there for those counting on me. But you aren't nothing. I won't simply turn my back on you.
He smiles sadly, the kind of smile only someone who has experienced great hardship has. A smile I'm all too familiar with.
I probably have to disagree. Still, that's nice of you to say.
We may not know each other well, but you wanted us to go on without you for our own safety. You even tried to have a sense of humor about it. That counts for something.
My statement is far from grand, yet he becomes distantly bashful all of a sudden, twitching his legs with each step. He hangs his head and mumbles his next phrase. Sadly, he seems unaccustomed to receiving praise.
That's true. Thank you for staying back with me. It's kind of nice.
No need to thank me.
Oh, right. I can't even show gratitude correctly. Of course.
I go to give him a look, but he's smiling. He looks less pitiful than usual. He almost seems content while crossing Sinlos. How? Why?
It is not funny to make a joke out of thinking that way about yourself.
If you don't want people to say things like that, then you shouldn't reject their thanks. Either I did right by thanking you, or I did wrong.
Fine. You're welcome.
This time he lets out a real laugh, though a short one.
I'm glad.
He stretches his arms out in front of him and elongates his strides, so he's walking a bit ahead of me. It's wrong with me. He's relaxed and completely unguarded. He's even fine with distancing himself from the light and all the odd comments he has said so far. Then a thought strikes me. Maybe the reason he's so calm is that he doesn't care what happens to him. My heart plummets into my gut. For a time, there is relative peace in the silence between us. Then Lou sighs heavily.
I never could have seen myself in a situation like this. It seems things really aren't over until they're over.
Did you think it was over?
He doesn't answer immediately. When he does, the reply is accompanied by him grasping himself, like he might fall apart if he lets go.
Yeah, I did.
That would have been the normal outcome for his situation. Alone, lightless. I shouldn't have asked. I must have let a frown slip through because Lou smiles a non-smile. He scratches his hand behind his neck and gives a little chuckle.
Something really is wrong with me. Somehow, I feel lighter.
Alright, well, maybe this is good. If he's feeling better than he was, then perhaps his view of himself will improve.
I wonder who'll still be left standing when this is truly all over.
I'm going to end this episode of Lake of Voices here. So, thank you so much for watching, and remember, don't go swimming in lakes at night. Really, I mean, do we really know if Nixie don't exist? I mean, better safe than sorry, right? So, yeah, stay in touch. Goodbye.